So for anyone who has those cute little lilies that you've noticed get devoured by these beautiful red beetles, you will be in the same predicament that I am, and that is that you really don't get to enjoy the flowers that you do get because they're quickly eaten by these beetles, the Japanese beetles. So this is what I'm doing to protect them. For one season, I am going to forfeit my right to see the flowers and cover them with this veil. I got this at a craft store. It's really meant for a wedding, but it's a very fine mesh. It's plastic. I would have liked something a little more natural, but on the turnaround, it won't get mold or anything like that as it gets rained on. It should be able to withstand the elements, being that it will be outside. So it just might work out for me. I have roughly 25 plants that I'm going to cover. And so I bought this roll. This is actually what the label looks like. Okay, I think it was $8. It wasn't that much considering how much I'm getting out of it. So I actually have 3 more to go, and it looks like I'm going to make it. I'm down pretty low on the roll, but I'm going to get my 25 that I need and some. You know, maybe I'll make some extra ones and make them produce bags. But basically, I'm cutting a very, very long strip so that when I double it, it's going to give me, gosh, what did I measure out? About 2 feet, because I want to make sure that it reaches all the way down to the ground and then to the top, giving the plant room and the flowers room, the little tubulars that are going to come out to kind of come up and expand within this space. So I'm just going to stitch either side. So the key is right now the adults, I saw my first one today and it has me in a panic because I have to get this on before the pregnant females start laying their eggs, because once they do that, these nets won't do much. The babies are much smaller and they can get in there. So I'm trying to basically starve the adults, give them absolutely nothing to eat because they really, I think they primarily just eat the lilies. So I'm not going to give them that opportunity, and hopefully they will go somewhere else, or their generation will be stunted, so many of them will die off, and there won't be as many the following year. Because these are exotics, they are not native to this area, I don't have a major issue with killing them off per se in this manner. It's not a poison, it's not a toxin, it's just denying them the food source through really non-invasive means. I'm not going to hurt any wildlife by doing this. So long as you don't, throw these around after, sea turtles will die in this. But so long as you keep them for every year and then find other uses for them and then recycle them when you're done, theoretically there is no damage. So it's safe. So I'm basically just pulling up. I have the one that I made initially, so I sized them all the same. And watch for holes as it pulls up, because it's a cheap material. So I don't think there's any quality control on this. So every now and then I do see a hole, and that one's got to get tossed. It's no good unless you want to take the time to patch the hole, which I don't. It's a cheap material, so I'm just going to move on. So far I've only had 2 duds that have holes in them. So that's it. I have 2 more to measure out here. Just a side note about sewing. If you're self-taught like I am, then I want to make sure that you're aware that you need to change the settings, the dial settings, each time you sew a different type of fabric. This being as thin and frail as it is, and the last thing I was sewing was a faux leather. So as you can imagine, the tuning's going to be a lot different on them. If I didn't change them, these stitches would just be so tight it would just have pulled it all together and probably ripped a hole in it. I also chose to do a zigzag, which you can see. And you do the zigzag, you'll notice it in swimwear, and that's so that it has a little give and take, so it kind of makes like a spring, see? And I decided at the last minute to do that because I noticed that this was almost, it had like a stretchy quality, even though it's just plastic and there's no spandex in it. Just the way that these little diamonds are, you can see how there's a lot of give. So because of that, I decided to do a zigzag so that if it stretched a little, see, now it's a straight stitch and now it's not, just to kind of move with the fabric. And if you have the same machine as I have, that's where I have my settings. So you can see here I have it right here on the 4, and then I have it on 4 over here. So, and then of course for the tension, it's a 3. So here are 2 examples of what I've done so far. So here's a little one that just came up this year. It wasn't one of the originals that I planted, and then of course here's one of the mature ones. So you can see that I have left plenty of room for these lilies to grow in here, and it's going to get a little tight in here, but by then I'm hoping most of the swarm will be gone. They're just going to get a little bit bunched up, but that's okay, because otherwise they would just be eaten, and I wouldn't see them anyway. And also, just to show you what I ended up doing, I found that it was just easier to tie twine around them. This one's just not going to stay out of my way. So what I've done here is I pulled from one section, pulled forward, and then bunched with my fingers here to make sure that I got it all the way around. I don't know if you can see that. And then I pushed it down a little to make sure that I got it down to the ground and that this is fairly snug. I mean, granted, you don't want to constrict the plant, but they can handle it pretty tightly. And of course, to that one too. So you can see that I pulled it down just as an added measure here. And then if anything does go up under there and try and crawl up, it's going to hit this and it won't make it through. So they are completely protected. The adult beetles seem to fly up on top. It's the babies, once those eggs that are laid in the ground, they're the ones that will climb up the trunk and go up. So for right now, most of the emphasis is on just covering them to keep the adults away. And being that this is roughly how large my plants are, it's a good size. So again, make your bags according to what you have and with some extra room to grow, and then you should be fine.